All right, guys, we are back, and I have a very interesting guest with me here. Goes by the name of Derrick, and he's with Signature. Derrick, tell us a little bit about what you do, the company, and a little bit about your background and how you got started in Signature.
Yeah, sure. So I guess the secret is out. Everybody's asking, what does Signature do? So they asked me, are you gonna do the interview in this? I'm like, heck yeah. Feel like I could go to a party in this stuff.
Yeah,
Feels good. I got the S on my chest here.
yeah, for sure.
But I am the president and the CEO of Signature. Signature is a medical courier firm. It was started last year, 2023. And essentially, what we do is we work with laboratories, hospitals, physicians' offices, and pharmacies to get either medications, blood samples, stool samples, urine samples. It's not the sexiest. It doesn't sound the sexiest, but it's important. The work that we do is very important. So we have to get that to the laboratories so these clients can get their blood work done, and get their results back to the physicians so they can prescribe to the client now, either if they need to go to surgery, if they need blood transfusion because their blood is no good, if that biopsy is cancerous. That is what we do. So it's a full circle, right? Just consider it like this: you have the physician, you have the client, you have us, the courier, you have the laboratory, and it's back to the physician. So it's a big circle. Now, a major part of that nucleus is the couriers, because without us, that sample or that tumor doesn't get to its destination. Which now, if it doesn't get to its destination, or if it gets lost, or if it gets contaminated, or if it's spoiled, it puts that client or that patient in a high risk. You know, Picture it this way. Let's say a physician takes off a tumor from someone, and it's now needing to get to the laboratory. And you have a courier that gets into an accident, does not call anyone, but that's time sensitive, right? It has to be frozen by a certain time, and it missed that window. That tumor now goes bad, or that sample goes bad.
Start the whole process over.
Yeah, that patient may not have another area that is infected on their body. So there's no more tumor to test. So the only window of opportunity was the first run, and that has expired because it didn't get to the place on time.
Very
Didn't get to
little
the lab.
room for trial and error.
There is very little room for error. Most people look at it like, okay, they're just picking up and dropping off. It's more to it than that.
Absolutely.
It's so much more.
Efficiency, right?
Indeed. And that's what we pride ourselves on. At Signature, we pride ourselves on being efficient, being prompt, and professional. I think you need all of that. And that it's a trickle down effect. It starts from the top, right? For me, I come from a corporate background. So I'm used to having things operate in a certain way, right? Where it's more white glove, hands on, customer focused type of environment that we try to give, right? I give most people this scenario: you could get a Toyota, or you could get a Porsche, right? Nobody needs a Porsche, but you get a Porsche because you're going to get that level of service, that extra mile, that you're not going to get with a Toyota. Not saying Toyota's a bad, bad vehicle. No, but the level of customer care that you're going to get, and that white glove service, you're just not going to get it.
It is night and day.
Yeah, it's complete night and day. So this is what we give our clients now, right? Because they are now expecting us to be at a certain level or get treated a certain level. There are tons of medical courier companies out there. right? But we want to give something a little bit more.
And we don't have to get into competitors or any of
No,
that.
no, no. I wouldn't even give them that shameful plug.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So you come from a corporate background. Can we get a little bit more in depth on that?
Sure. My corporate background, stems from banking, right? Um, Dealing with the top banks in the New York, New Jersey area. So you're dealing with high net worth individuals to your regular mom and pop. So you see um, the switch in income, and we deal with each one of those clients the same. There is no preference. To me, I've never let anyone's uh, financial stability or their impact determines how I treat them. Someone can have $100 in their account or $1 million in their account. They're getting the same me. And that's what I guess made me a little bit different, because there was no real differentiation between the two.
You're basically telling me you're treating the guy that pulls up in the Toyota Camry like the guy that pulled up in the Porsche.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right, right.
But the guy that pulls up in that Toyota could be the guy that has $10 million to invest with you.
Absolutely.
And the guy that's pulling up in that Porsche could have $100
I
to
mean, look at
invest with
Warren
you.
Buffett.
Yes,
He-
yes. What is he driving? A Buick these days?
Yeah.
For like the past 10 years? So yeah.
The
Well,
Oldsmobile.
yes. Well, it's like me. Most people see me and they ask me, "What are you driving?" I drive an old car.
Who's your CFO, if you don't mind me asking? Because
do.
you come from finance.
Yes, we do have a CFO. She is very good at what she does, and she keeps me in line. It's a battle with your CFO at times.
Of course.
Most people think that because you're the CEO, you are able to make all the decisions. In one respect, yes, I can override it, but that's the reason why you have that person in that position,
Right.
right? So it takes away from you wanting to be overly aggressive and wanting to do too many things at once. That person is a check and balance to keep you in check, to say, all right, no, 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 we can't do this yet. I know you want to, but let's not do this yet.
Right.
It's I guess your better angel,
Right.
is what your CFO.
Absolutely. Would you say that, just to get into a little bit, not too much of it, like hiring for you, right? CFO, such a large position in a company. Would you say your background in banking helped you choose the right CFO? Did it aid in a way, or how did you come across your CFO? Not to make it too much about your CFO, but you did talk about your banking background. Now I'm a little curious about that.
Well, no, that's a great question. And no, my CFO came from a complete different world. She had her own business, so I was impressed on how she ran her business at that time. She has now sold that business, so I brought her on um, as the CFO, because I've had that level of respect for her in the financial world and how she is able to handle the financing in her personal business. So I thought that was a very good asset to have.
Okay, very interesting. How do you feel about it's extraordinary to me how many years were you in banking?
Wow. Now you're asking me to date myself. No, now I've been in banking since the 90s.
Since the 90s.
Since the 90s, yes.
And this is your first year with a medical courier company.
Yes, yes.
What made you pivot to that industry?
Interesting. And this is the story how Signature was actually born, right? So after leaving banking, I was in the health field, not medical, uh, personal fitness. We did that. Then I went on to work for um, a high-end luxury automaker, right? But I noticed that I was spending so much time, 12, 14 hours per day, handling client issues, right? It takes a toll on you after a while. Although you enjoy what you're doing,
Solutions.
So yes, it's constant. It's almost like a doctor. What a doctor sees every day, problems, you know, and it takes its toll after a while. 12, 14 hours every day takes a toll. So I decided what I'm going to do is to take myself out of that equation, start something, and invest that time into me. I rather give myself 12 or 14 hours out of a day, or even 20 hours out of a day. At least I know where that time is really going, where it's appreciated. So I decided to start the organization at that point. And that's why I decided to start it. I just wanted to move away from giving someone else my time, making someone else profitable. Let's make myself profitable,
100%.
build my own client base. And, another thing why I wanted to give back in the medical field is, my mom was a nurse. So she gave 35 years to the medical space, you know, and my dad, he is in dialysis, you know. So what better way to pay homage to them and bring myself into that world? I never saw myself in that
Wow.
space. So it kind of came full circle.
Yeah.
So, and that's the birth of Signature.
That's fascinating.
That's how we began.
Very
yeah.
interesting. The fact that you were able to transition and pivot, you even said you worked for luxury automobile.
Yeah, automaker. Yeah, high-end German automaker. We're not going to give them any plugs on this here.
Right.
But yeah, it's when you're dealing with that level of net worth, the client net worth, they're expecting certain things, right? So I took that approach and decided to inject it into this firm where that level of client care, customer service, attention to detail, white glove service that I think that the medical space is missing. Let's give it to them. Let's show them another side. We don't want our transportation experts, as most people call them, drivers or couriers, to fall into, well, it's just a driver, it's just a courier. No, whenever they call on Signature, they're going to know that they're getting a certain level of experience, knowledge, carefulness, respect, and just how the firm's representative present themselves when they're in that hospital, when they're in that clinic, when they're in that physician's office. It's very white collar for me.
Those are great core values.
Yeah, those are our cornerstone. And again, there are a lot of medical courier companies out there, but what makes them stand out? No, they're all in a bunch. So now we stand out with the level of service and care that we give our client.
It's more than just driving.
No, it's way more than driving. And as you get deeper into it, you realize how significant your role is. If I hired someone, they need to understand that the role that they play on a day-to-day basis, a client's well-being, life or death, is in their hands.
How was your first year and going into your second year? What are adjustments you want to make? And what were a few struggles that you are going through?
Well, it's interesting, right? So your first year, you're just getting off the ground, as we are, right? It's the first year. Most people would say you're a startup. Yes, I agree, because in business, if you're in the first 2-year period, you are a startup, right? So you accept that, you realize what you are. But now for me, I found that I was able to connect well with, you're looking at some of the major players in the medical space, right? The one that runs most of the laboratories, okay? Coming from a business development, customer relations type of background, it gave me the platform or the know-how to connect with them a little bit better, right? So Someone would say, "Oh, my first year, I'm having such an issue in getting new contracts or getting new accounts." I don't think that we're having that much of an issue. Yes, it's tough getting in the door. It's as big as the space is. It's very small at the same time. There's conglomerates that eat up a lot of the space, and from a new company coming in, it's a little bit tougher. But for us, we find that just keep pushing. You don't have to get home runs all the time, right? Base hits, win ball games as well. So what we're trying to do is just get those smaller accounts. We'll get the bigger accounts in between, but building small, step by step, little by little. I think that you go in with that mindset, not knowing that you're not gonna hit home runs every time. That sets the standard, or the expectation, I should say,
Right.
for where you gotta go.
Right.
And then everything becomes easier after that. Because
Right.
I always say, let me get my nose up front. Let me fail fast so I can recover and be on a upward trajectory.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let me fail early.
Absolutely.
I don't want to get too many positives and then I never experience the negatives.
Absolutely.
So if I'm getting so many positives and then I finally get a negative, I'm thrown off my horse. I don't know how to really rebound from that.
Right.
So throw the negative at me, let me get over it. So now I'm looking forward to all the positives that's going to come.
Absolutely.
In the long run.
Momentum.
Yes, it absolutely does build momentum.
Absolutely momentum. So let's talk a little bit about your services here. I'm
Sure.
looking at the website. Very well put together.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can request a quote right here. But let's get into like the services. I see medical services. I even see next flight out services, which I'm pretty sure is a premium, super premium service.
Yes.
Consulting services.
Yes.
And then we'll get into the government contracts, if that's something you could speak about. I don't know if that's something you could touch.
Absolutely. Everything on that website we're proud of and would love to speak on. Signiture.com, SIGNITURE, signiture.com. Next flight out, right? The next flight out is key, and it's a baby of mine. Essentially, what we have clearance with the TSA. So that clearance with the TSA allows us to get that package, that organ, whatever it may be, from a hospital, a surgeon, from a blood bank, to the airport, and get it through the restricted areas to get on that next flight out without having to go through check-in, pre-screen, all that stuff. So it's very detailed and involved to get cleared for that. And I think that's one of the things.
I'm sure many phone calls.
Oh yeah.
Many phone calls.
Yeah,
right?
it's digging into your background. It's the FBI is involved. So, when you have that card, it's a card that you hold very proud to say, hey, we have this. We're trusted by the government in order to get your precious sample or your precious organ that someone needs right away to get it to them. We will drop whatever it is that we're doing to get that next flight out.
Absolutely. Consulting services. But before we get into consulting services, you mentioned next flight out is your baby.
Yes. It's just something that I pride myself on. It's not a lot of people will probably get to use it, but it's one of those things it's a gem. It's just there, again, for, if you've ever seen driving on a highway and you see that big van blowing by you that says, live organ on the side, and they're trying to get somewhere because someone's life is hanging in the balance. They could be carrying heart, lung, kidney, could be carrying an eye, could be carrying frozen embryos, but it needs to get somewhere quick.
Man, how do you sleep at night, man?
I don't.
Just like, just it's a lot to think about.
It's a lot.
And these are people and organs, and these are humans you're dealing with, right? Essentially.
Yeah. So again, like I said, it's in that circle. It goes from the clinic, the client, to the courier, to the laboratory, back to the
Do you
physician.
feel like everybody in that circle that you're mentioning now, you mentioned prior in the interview, plays a big part, or would you say some play a bigger role than others in
No,
that?
I think all of the roles are very important. However, um, it's just pulling the curtain back a little bit. What most people see, right? Most people just see couriers walking in with this bag with biohazard written on it, and they're walking out, right?
Right.
Um, but that courier is holding someone's life in that bag,
Yeah.
and that's how um, important they are. Our role is so important. It's just as important as the laboratory and the doctor getting the results from the laboratory. Because mind you, now the physician can't get the results from the uh, laboratory if it does not get there, or if it gets there and it's spoiled, or again, so there's three ways of transport, right? Frozen, refrigerated, or room temperature. So if it needs to be room temperature and it's accidentally frozen with dry ice to keep it cold till it gets there, it's gone, right? If it needs to be frozen and it's kept in room temperature till it gets to the lab, it's gone. You can't use it. So, and let's say that again, we go back to this example. Let's say there's a tumor, and the doctor removes the tumor. Now that tumor has to go to the lab to get tested to see if it's cancerous or not. But it's the only part that's exposed that can be cut off. If it doesn't get to the laboratory, or if it gets to the laboratory and it's not secured or kept in the right chain of command, as far as whether frozen, refrigeration, or room temperature, if it gets there in a fashion that it's not supposed to, you can't do that rescrape, because that is the only piece. Now that person's life is in the balance, because that um, that sample
Yeah, it's no good.
is no good.
It's life or death.
Yes.
With a lot of these cases, a lot of these scenarios.
So a lot of people's lives are in your courier's hands.
Your
So
courier's hand.
we handpick the couriers that will work with us. Yeah.
You handpick your couriers. Can we talk a little bit about that process?
Sure. The couriers, I have to feel comfortable with them, because at the end of the day, Signature, I am the face of Signature, right? And everything comes up the line to me.
And at the end of the day, people are just doing their job.
Yes.
And you're the one that's held at the highest when it comes to the liability.
Absolutely. So, who's running the operation? Derrick's running the operation. He's the CEO. He's the president. He's running the operation. So that's why hiring is so important. Drug testing, drug screening, and just that feel that you get from the person when you're interviewing them.
How many interviews?
It could be one. It could be one. It could be one. I remember, my days of banking, going for interviews. You figure, okay, you have to go for 3 rounds of interviews. I don't know if I really like that. There's no need. You get a feel if someone is not able to interview that person, then okay, fine. Let's set up another date. But I usually try to get everything done. You get a good feel for that person. I don't think you have to bring the person back in 3-4 times. That drive to learn the business. It could be someone that's coming in completely new, but they have that drive to learn, right? And you can pick that up in conversation.
Absolutely.
Right? So have you ever heard someone says, yeah, I've been selling cars for the past 20 years. Okay. How good are you at selling cars for the past 20 years? What's your track record, really? So it doesn't mean anything that you've been selling cars for 20 years.
Right. What have you
my thing is, so you may have someone that comes in who's just eager, who just, picks it up. They're new, they're a sponge, they're a blank canvas, and they just want to absorb as much as possible and be the best as possible. Someone who has been doing this for quite some time is set in their own ways, right? No matter how you try to retrain them, they're always going to go back to their bad habits.
Right.
And that's why I would rather get someone who is new or fairly new, because now you can retrain them. Someone who's been doing the same thing for 15, 20 years, it's very hard.
Very hard to rewire.
You can't.
Very hard to rewire.
They may do what you want for a while, but they're going to resort back to cutting corners, and which in this line of business, you can't cut corners. There's no cutting corners. So people's lives are on the line.
Let's talk about, and I'm going through the website here again, and I see government contracts, but before we get into that, consulting services.
So consulting is it's interesting for Signature because we're in the medical space, right? But we consult, but we only consult to one client. You may have heard of this client. It's called the U.S. government.
Yeah, who hasn't?
And that's our only client. So that just there's a perfect segue into the governmental contracts. So we are authorized by the U.S. government to bid on contracts, right? Open contracts. The U.S. government has billions of dollars every year in their budget for contracts. And a portion of that is set aside for small businesses to compete, to get a piece of the pie, to get contracts. So it doesn't matter where you are, right? I can go on the government site, and which at any time there's thousands of open contracts. I may see something in Hawaii that sounds interesting that I may want to bid on. I don't have to be in Hawaii, but I can now formulate a plan, pricing, how the job should be done, the workers that should be hired, if it's a third party that we're going to outsource it to, and propose to the government. If we get that contract, then we're able to be what they consider the middleman. So we're just the orchestrator, right? And that's all that we have to do.
Wow.
So the government sells everything, or they're a buyer of everything. Light bulbs. The government may have a contract that says we need 50,000 LED light bulbs that are, I'm just going to throw this out, are HG12 type of light bulbs.
Right.
That's not a real light bulb, but we have to find that light bulb, price it, and present to them, hey, this is what we can get it to you for. Somebody else, 5 other companies, 6 other companies may present the same thing. If the government likes our price, we don't have to be the lowest price, and we don't have to be the highest price. They just have to be comfortable with your organization, or that the person that's in charge may be looking for the lowest price. So you never know.
Right.
It's trial and error at some point. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some.
Absolutely.
But the best thing that you can do is when you do lose one, is just to connect with that government agency and say, okay, what did I do wrong?
Right.
Was I too high? Was I too low? What was it that separated the company that won from my company? Getting this type of information on the back end just sets you up for the next one. So now you're kind of knowing how to maneuver a little bit better. And this is how you end up refining yourself and getting better at government contracts.
Right. Government contract. Let's step away from government contracts for a second. Your regular contracts, right? How do you go about sourcing them or making those connections? Do you do a lot of? I know back in the day it was a lot of cold calls, a lot of cold outreach. Do you guys still use those methods, or what are the methods now? What do you guys do now?
I'm old school. I knock on the doors. I go to locations and I physically knock on the door.
So you do a lot of cold outreach.
Yeah, I knock on the doors. I do cold calls. If you're in sales, the phone is your best friend. If you're in sales, you can't be afraid of the phone. You know, I always tell people, I'll keep calling until that person tells me, stop calling me.
Right.
That's how you're going to really make it. So, if you know how to structure your day, your first half of your day, all right, because people in laboratories, they work for certain hours, right? So
Right.
from 8 o'clock to 12, that's a good window. They may go to lunch from 12 to 1, and they're usually out of the office by like 3. There's another shift that comes in. You have to try to connect with the right person, so it's you need to make 50 calls per day.
Right.
No, because I make a lot of phone calls. I run up against the wall a lot of times, but from my experience of being in business development, knowing how to deal with rejection or the gatekeepers, as we call them. You got to know how to get around the gatekeepers.
Right, the gatekeepers.
Yeah, so it's all part of it. So when someone calls on me, I give them the courtesy. I'll listen to it. If I'm interested in the product, I'll buy the product. If I'm not interested in the product, hey, listen, we're not there for this product at the moment, but let's circle back later.
Right.
It's business to business. I just find myself, because I've been on the other side, how to handle them and just give companies the courtesy.
Going into the second year now, or are
No,
we ready?
we're still in the first.
We're still in the first year.
Still in the first year. So as far as like projection goes, right?
Right.
So this is where now you start making your projection for second year. Okay, so you went through that curve the first year. You made some mistakes. You try to minimize the mistakes because mistakes are costly. You have to tread backwards now, recorrect things, get out of contracts that you got into in the early days when you didn't know it that well.
Right.
So once you get through that, now you're like, okay, well, we can position ourselves in a different manner. Now that you know how to, or have gotten contracts from your bread and butter, which is the medical courier side.
Right.
Now you say, okay, how do we scale that? So now that's when you start projecting. So let's say your first year, you're able to, gross, 300,000 gross profit in your first year. Nothing to sneeze at for a small company.
Right.
But then your next year now, you're looking, okay, how do we double that? And that's how you start to scale. Now you look at, okay, how many, now that comes into the play, how many phone calls are we now going to make every year, every day? That now comes into play on the second year.
What other data could you draw for projections from where?
Well,
where you could improve on the second year?
Well, as far as data is concerned, we want to look at what our competition is doing, right? How much of a presence that they have, what are they doing? We're not trying to recreate the wheel, but you look at what they're doing somewhat. We're not going to change up too much because we have a specific model, but we're looking to see where they are, what people are saying in regards to them. Okay, what's working? And then we just extract some of that information and tweak how we're doing business just to kind of implement some of that into how we're doing business. Even if you implement one thing and it changes the dynamic a little bit and it boosts you, maybe it could be that, all right, we're not doing trade shows. Maybe now looking at trade shows, let's attend a trade show or two, let's put a little bit more into marketing, advertising, right? Let's spend that $3,000 for that electronic billboard every month. If you grab one contract from that, it takes care of that, but you can't be afraid to spend the money to get to that next level. I used to, early in my career, I worked with a firm, and ironically, it was clinical trials, right? um, what I had to do was connect with the CEOs or the presidents of these labs. So I had to do research, figure out where these labs are. Once the labs got out of the animal testing phase and it's now into human clinical trials, I had to connect with the CEOs or presidents, right? I didn't need to speak with the head of business development because they can't make the ultimate decision. So I had to connect with the CEOs and now propose to them it's $10,000 to go to a conference. And at this conference, there's going to be everyone that your company needs to speak with. And we'll get you the meetings. This is sight unseen, you know. So if a person tells me, Derrick, listen, 10,000, I can't afford the 10,000 to go to this summit to sit in front of, you know, companies like Johnson Johnson, Bristol Myers Squibb. These are the big guys out there. You're telling me you cannot afford that, then my thing to you is you shouldn't be in business.
Absolutely. Invest in yourself.
Yes. And you're the ultimate salesperson for your organization. You're the ultimate closer. So if you're getting 5 meetings, even if you close one of those deals, you're not going to close all 5. You got 2 days to close one deal. It's unlimited.
Absolutely.
Oh, you have to get out of your comfort zone. Am I out of my comfort zone? Absolutely. I'm completely out of it. And am I scared? Sure, you're supposed to be scared.
Right.
If you're not scared, then, you know, this is not for you.
No risk, no reward.
That's it. You know, they said if you wake up every day and you don't have a dream to chase, go back to bed.
Yep.
Yeah, go back to bed, get a dream, then wake up, then chase it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that principle that we got to follow.
Right. What's the future for you? And if you don't mind me asking, I know it's still early in your company, but would you eventually go public?
That is a way down the line.
Which is why I say, you know, I know it's still early, but
no. You know what? I've thought of 10 years down the line already. I've told folks that, you know, in the next 10 years, you're gonna see, you know, the big delivery guys out there. One of them ends with EX at the end, and the other one ends with PS at the end.
Right.
You know,
right.
I'm not gonna give them a plug on here, but you know, then there's I would like Signature to be up there when people say, okay, delivery methods, you know, this name becomes synonymous, not again
Household
in that
name.
pack. We want to separate from that pack, you know. Again, yep, there she is.
Become that household staple. Right?
Yes, it becomes a household name. You know, so the S becomes iconic. That's what I want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get back into the website here. Which, by the way, I don't know who made this website for you, but they did a great job.
No, thank you.
It's easy to and the website again, guys, it's signiture.com, and it's SIGNITURE.com. That's the website. You guys can tune in. And the phone number is 888-383-6176.
Yeah, that's our 800 number.
That's the 800 number.
And we have a local number, 201-535-6464, 201-535-6464. That's our domain number.
There you go. And you guys can find Derrick and Signature on that website, right? If you guys want to get in contact.
It's info@signiture.com. And if you need to reach me directly, I'm going to give my personal work email out there. It's dmorris, M-O-2-R-S-I-S, @signiture.com.
Damn, you guys are getting lucky today, man. You guys are getting personal emails, personal phone numbers. Can't make this up, man. Derrick, just brilliant, man. Just brilliant. I appreciate you sitting down with me. Anything you want to let them know? Anything else that we didn't cover about Signature that you want to make clear?
No, I think we covered a lot. I think you were very in depth of your question
Thank you.
pushed me to dig a little deeper into signature here. So the secret is out. Now everybody know what signature is all about. So folks were seeing the symbol, they were seeing signature out there, but then everyone's, what is signature? But then little by little, it rolled out. So now it's on your platform. Yeah, we are medical courier service, a premier medical courier service that caters to hospitals, laboratories, physicians.
Get that right, but put some respect on the name there.
Yes,
Premier
yes,
Courier
premier,
service.
yes,
Minority owned.
yes, and that within itself comes with its challenges, I guess. But if you're not looking at that as a way to hold you back. You're here to move the ball forward. So you focus on the task at hand, not what its stigma, what is trying to hold you back.
Absolutely.
There's more positives than negatives because we provide a service that is needed. It's not going anywhere,
Right.
And the medical community needs it.
AI is definitely not gonna take over what you're doing.
Yeah, but it's still you can't get that human element.
Of course.
You still need that person to pick up that sample,
Yep.
bring it to the next place. So AI can't do that. Yeah, funny thing. I was picking up some sweatshirts, and I went into the factory to pick up the sweatshirts. And the way that I came in, I started chatting it up. The gentleman said, "Are you in sales?" I was like, "Yes, I am, by the way." He was like, "I don't know. I just got that from your personality. It just makes everybody want to talk to you. It's just the way that you came across. It's not standoffish. It's not cold. It's just very warm where people want to engage with you."
Right.
And I think when people trust you, they want to deal with you,
Right.
So that's where we are.
Absolutely. Do you want to get into, I don't want to hold you up, do you want to get into your background? We didn't really touch up on college and where you went to school and where you grew up. Do you want to get into that real quick, or are you tight on time?
No, we could get into it.
Yeah.
We just
For sure. Yeah, take your time. I know we're kind of backtracking now,
No, it's fine.
But I wanted to really know what Signature was about. I want to get right into the company.
Sure.
Yeah, but now I'm interested in your background. If we could get into that.
Yeah, my background, I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in New York. Well, I'm a product of the Bronx, Bronx public schools, until we went to college. Went to Fordham University. So that's where I did my higher education. And
majoring in
finance.
Finance.
And politics.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, my initial career path was to be an attorney.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so there was a fork in the road, went into finance, so sometimes the road that you think you're going to travel,
Right.
You don't travel that road. So it takes you a couple of loops to get back to here. So I read something the other day that says, like Elon Musk, looking at the age that he started Tesla, right? Gentleman from E-Trade, how old he was when he started E-Trade. Colonel Sanders, how old he was when he started KFC. These guys were mainly in their 40s and 50s.
Right.
Yeah, so you tell everyone, it doesn't matter where you started, it's where you are now. Nothing is left behind.
Absolutely.
You can always restart. I had a friend of mine, he said, "Derrick, you know how to reinvent yourself." And, sometimes you do. Always bet on yourself. Put yourself first.
Right.
I'm always going to bet on me,
Right.
And with Signature, yeah, we bet it on us. And I think we're in a good place.
It's interesting you say at 40 years old. There's a book I read, and I still read it to this day, Think and Grow Rich. And the author says that in the book towards the end, that most men hit their successful peak past 40.
Yeah, I think they say men develop a little later, or boys develop, slower than girls. But I think once you get to that maturity stage, you've gone through your 20s, you've gone through your 30s, your thinking and your thought pattern changes, right? So
Absolutely.
you start looking at things a little bit different. How do you get from here now to here? Because I said in your 20s, you're supposed, okay, it's your party time, okay? You can blow that if you want. You still got your 30s, 40s, and your 50s. You
Right.
still got three decades left, right? So by the time you hit your 50s, they said you're supposed to get ready to coast, right? But then some people are just now hitting their stride at 50, so it takes that out the way. Just kind of reinvent everything. I think that as we mature and as we just get better, what life experiences, we we figure it out.
Right.
You don't have to figure it all out. You know, I tell a college student that's going to college, while you're in college, you don't have to figure it out. You have so much more time to figure it out.
Right.
You know, yeah, and that's what I would say to that.
What other advice can you give to young kids, young men that want to build a business or are going through trial and error, and like you said, maybe you think you want to do this, and then life humbles you, and it's all a stepping stone, right? It's never overnight success. But what advice could you give to anybody that's
I would
at a young
say,
age?
I would say, never
Besides
give,
the advice you just gave, which was great,
yeah, never give up.
But what else could you add to that for them? Because I feel like the youth right now is a little confused with where they want to go and what they want to do, and I feel like industries have changed, and the way we look at college and the way corporations look at college have changed and is
Mhm.
changing. So how can you add some type of perspective into that?
Well, the advice that I would give is, just follow whatever gives you joy. If you have that dream and that desire, that strong desire, just follow that path.
That burning desire.
Just follow it. Just follow it. Again, it may not happen overnight. It may, you know, but when it does happen overnight, you don't appreciate it as much as if you had to go through the rough parts, right? And when I say the rough parts, getting the no's, getting the rejections, you know, I think getting all of that just makes you a little bit stronger as an entrepreneur, because now you've heard the no's. So when you hear the yeses, you appreciate the yeses, and okay, I've heard enough no's. I know that it should be all yeses coming down the pike.
Right.
It's just learning how to deal with it. It's I guess it's like the person that's running a marathon for the first time. That first 6 miles, you're like, oh my God, what did I get myself into?
Mhm.
But as you get over that first 6 miles, you're like, okay, you hit your stride.
Right.
Yeah. And then, okay, all of the tightness in the muscles and the joints, they kind of subside. The blood is flowing, and you're just on a rhythm.
Yeah.
You're gonna get tired, yes, but you're not gonna feel it as much as in that first 6 miles.
Absolutely.
So it's life kinds of, it's 360.
Another question. You brought up a marathon, and a lot of people, they'll run a good marathon for 12 months or a year or two, and then they'll hit a little victory lap, and then they kind of coast off, and the momentum isn't there anymore. And have you ever experienced that? How do you bounce back from that, or are you always just the drive is always on go, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years straight?
We're humans. We get complacent sometimes, you know. But as I tell my son, focus, focus. He plays basketball, the fourth graders and fifth graders.
Yeah.
Focus. You know, are you gonna have that laser sharp focus every day? Maybe not.
Right.
But as long as you're giving 80%, right, and not 40, then I can live with that.
Right.
Do we feel like going to work every day? Probably not.
Right.
But if you get yourself out of bed and up and going, if you're working from home in your chair, you're ready to go to work, right? I think Kobe said it best. Kobe used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Shout out Kobe.
Yeah, yeah. Rest in peace, Kobe, the
Rest in
great.
peace.
He used to practice from 4 to 6, right? And then from 9 to 11, and then from I think 2 to 4.
Talk about 3 days.
Yeah, and that's every day. So he would say, okay, so his competition, they weren't doing that. So let's say they started to follow his footsteps 3 years later. He's already 3 to 5 years ahead of them. They can never catch up.
No.
And that's why he was always better.
That's
You can't catch up. Even if you emulated it, you can't catch up. So I would put it this way. If you lived on the West Coast, if you live on the West Coast and you're sleeping till 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the East Coast is already awake since 6 a.m.
Right.
We're already 3 hours ahead of you, outworking you 3 hours while you slept for an additional 3 hours. So 9 a.m. is 6 a.m. On the East Coast. You need to get up at really 3 a.m. West Coast time to be on par with your competition on the East Coast.
Right.
You've got to make it work.
Yeah, you
That's
gotta do
that's
it.
just the way that I see
Yeah,
it.
you gotta get that information first. You gotta get that first.
If you're sleeping, you're not getting the knowledge.
Yeah,
Yeah, your competition is outworking you already.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, great words, man. Great words, and I feel like the youth needed that. The youth needs that. That sense of direction and that commitment, because a lot of it right now is everything is desensitized, and it's a lot of like instant gratification.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. The attention span is very short.
Yeah, it's very minimal.
If
now.
it doesn't catches you right away, scroll.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're scrolling.
We're kind of rewiring DNA.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of being rewired. I can only imagine like 2 more generations. Like my son is 8, so his kids, and it's interesting. It's gonna be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, but I do appreciate those words, and you gotta stay down, man, until you come up, man.
Of course,
hustle,
of
man.
course, of course. It's a grind. It's a grind. I think was it David Dash said it best. Starting a business means that you're gonna be broke for a little while. Just for a little while. You're not gonna be a millionaire, quick. If you're quick to get upset when stuff is not going right, you're not a boss. A boss figure things out. And shout out to him.
That's a fact. Shout out
Most
Dave.
people may think that he's arrogant and flashy, but the guy has a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, he does. Shout out Dame.
Yeah.
And I love Dame's mentality, his perspective, his philosophy on he treats his life like he's the CEO of his life.
Yes.
In every aspect.
Yes.
And every person you deal with, you have to make sure you identify if they're going to be an asset to your life or a liability.
A liability,
You stay away
absolutely.
from them. And you handle your personal relationships like you were running a business. And I love Dame's perspective on that. I live every day like that.
Yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to.
For sure.
And
for sure.
I take that with me on a daily basis. So when I'm encountering something that I need to figure out, I just keep remembering bosses don't get upset. You figure it out.
Right.
Yeah, you don't get upset.
Solutions.
That's what your job is. Your employees may get upset, but they're not in that position where, someone is relying on them. My decisions, someone is relying on my decisions. Right. So I have to figure it out, form a solution, fix it. Now we can keep moving. I can't get upset.
Absolutely.
Can't get upset.
All of that slows down momentum, man.
It does. And we don't have time to slow down. We have to keep propelling forward.
That's right. Especially in today's day and age.
Yes, indeed.
Man, pleasure again having you here, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks again. And this is your camera right here. Let them know, again, where they could find you. If you have any socials, if you want to disclose your socials, give them the email, the website.
Yeah, sure. On Instagram, we are Signiture LLC, SIGNITURE LLC. LinkedIn, Signiture LLC, same spelling. And info at signiture signature.com. And if anyone needs to get in touch with me directly, you can reach me in the office, D Morris, that's my first initial last name, MO, 2 R's IS, at signiture.com.
Come on, man. What else can you ask from this man? He's giving you free game, free sauce. Information is key.
Yes.
Thank you once again, man. I appreciate you stopping by today.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.